Welcome back to the Golden Era. Let's get right to it. Number 7, Cinderella. Cinderella is the movie that cemented the Disney princess trope, and it is probably the quintessential Disney princess movie. Coming into this project, this was the film I was most familiar with. I'd last seen it only a few years ago, and to be honest, it was never really one of my favorites. However, watching it this time gave me a new appreciation for the film. The film is no doubt beautiful. The soft animation is what Disney films knew how to do best. It's seamless and just pretty. The songs are also memorable and iconic. A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes is right up there with When You Wish Upon a Star as an icon, but Sing Sweet Nightingale and This Is Love are also wonderful songs, thanks in part to Eileen Wood's lovely performance as the titular character. Also, we get one of the greatest and most memorable Disney villains in Lady Tremaine. That woman is scary. However, one of my complaints is that the movie focuses on the wrong characters. Instead of developing Cinderella and the prince, multiple scenes are spent focusing solely on the mice and on the king. While I enjoy those scenes, I felt as though they weren't necessary to the story. I wanted to know more about Cinderella, and I wanted to know more about the prince. How are we supposed to like her with the prince if we don't know about them? To me, this focus on side characters rather than on the main characters is one of my only problems about the films in this era, as it's not particular to Cinderella. Despite the complaint, the film is a beauty to look at and to listen to, and it's very enjoyable. Next. Number 6, Bambi. Speaking of beautiful movies, this film is dripping in exquisite scenery. The detail and hard work put into crafting this film is so evident. The animals, though obviously cartoony caricatures, still move and feel like their real-world counterpart. But the gorgeous artwork is not the only thing commendable about this film. While not the strongest in terms of plot or story, its treatment of the characters is second to none. You really feel these characters and their journey, especially the titular character, as it is essentially a coming-of-age tale. This connection we have with Bambi makes his mother's death even more tragic. Her death scene, even over 60 years later, remains one of the most iconic and heartbreaking in cinematic history. What is interesting is that we do not even see her get shot, or even her lifeless body. Despite everything happening off-screen, this film does an expert job in making us feel the dread these animals feel when the hunter is about. This is an incredibly subtle and atmospheric movie that treats its characters with the utmost respect. It is most definitely deserving of the title of one of the best animated films of all time. Number 5, The Jungle Book. After watching all the films of this era, I realized that I generally enjoy the more action-adventure boy films than the soft and romantic girl films. My enjoyment of The Jungle Book is a testament to this. This is the last film to be heavily produced by Disney himself, and it was a good film to go out on. I found the characters all very charming and likable, especially Bagheera. I know a lot of people complain about Mowgli, but I found him really relatable and not as annoying as many people point him out to be. The villains in this film are also great. Kaa is perfectly slithery and slimy, with Trust in Me just bringing his creepiness up tenfold. King Louie is also a lot of fun. I Want to Be Like You will be stuck in your head for days. And don't even get me started on Shere Khan. He's absolutely terrifying, most of all because he knows just how terrifying he is. He's so calm about it, and that's what makes him scarier. The music is also great, thanks mostly to the Sherman Brothers. While I feel the film does not have the substance some of the other films in this era has, it makes up with it with a lot of heart. It's a fun, extremely enjoyable film, and it closed this era of Disney films on a high note. Number 4, Sleeping Beauty. How I feel about Sleeping Beauty often fluctuates. Sometimes I see how skillfully and gorgeously this film was crafted, from the tapestry-like backgrounds to the flawless and oftentimes scary animation to the beautiful Tchaikovsky-inspired songs. Though other times I see a film whose two leads are seriously lacking. I can most definitely say that Aurora is my least favorite Disney princess, mostly due to the fact that she's barely on the screen. In her defense, half of the movie she's unconscious, but the other half she is not. She just seems like the stereotypical pretty princess, and Prince Philip is not much better. While he improves upon the two previous princes by leaps and bounds, he ultimately ends up rather boring. That said, I cannot help but like this movie. While we don't really know the leads, they really aren't on screen that much, and the characters that are on screen are pretty much fantastic. The three fairies are hilarious and endearing, each in different ways. Merryweather is my girl, just saying. And I don't even need to mention Maleficent. She is the Disney villain, and deservedly so. She's terrifyingly wicked, menacing, and scary. And can we talk about how exciting the climax is? It's iconic for a reason. While I do have my misgivings about the film, the sheer artistry and the prose far outweigh the cons. It's a beautiful piece of art that has certainly earned its place as a Disney classic. Number 3, Peter Pan. When I said that I liked the boy movies better than the girl movies, this goes doubly for Peter Pan. Watching this film, I was never bored, not for a second. It's wonderfully animated and charming in presentation. I found pretty much every character very likable and charming. The film struck a good balance between splitting screen time between the hero and the villain because, let's face it, this movie is nothing without its villain. Captain Hook is one of the greatest Disney villains and has become the template for what I like to call the campy villain. Unlike his darker counterparts like Maleficent or Judge Frollo, Hook is the type of villain who you know is evil but is not afraid to deliver a good laugh or two. And I must say, without a doubt, this is the funniest movie of the era. I could not help but laugh every time the crocodile was on screen. The animators and screenwriters knew how to make a scene funny and entertaining. The action is also very well executed, and its animation rivals films of today. On top of all the great characters and funny scenes, this film is an interesting look and commentary on childhood. How childhood is great and should be cherished, but one can never stay a child forever. I will definitely own this film in the future. Number 2, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is the movie that started it all. Disney's Folly, as many detractors called it, became a huge sensation, changing animation forever. Animators are no longer relegated to cartoon shorts that were often very silly in nature. Now, with the success of Snow White, they could produce serious, more meaningful feature-length work. This film, while not perfect, is an achievement and a milestone. That alone makes it worthy of its place on this list. But what makes this film great is that it backed up its great achievement with substance. Within the first few seconds of this film, I was blown away by the detail and love these artists put into it. All I could do was stare in awe at the beautifully executed animation, constantly asking myself, was this really made in the 30s? While very kiddie and childish sometimes, this film delivers great laughs with some charming, memorable characters, but it also gives us that darker edge that Disney so famously inserts. The scenes in the forest, the witch's transformation and her eventual demise, and especially Snow White's vigil, provide for some wonderfully darker moments set against an otherwise light and pretty film. I respect this film supremely, and I will happily watch it again and again, not just because of how important this film is, but also because it's just a good movie. And, number 1, Pinocchio. When preparing this list, it was hard to pinpoint which film I wanted to put on the top spot. I love so many of these movies that the decision was certainly a tough one. What made me choose Pinocchio, it turns out, was pretty simple. This is the one that stuck with me the most. Every time I think about this film, a smile involuntarily creeps onto my face. What Snow White started in terms of animation, Pinocchio improved upon exponentially. This is a gorgeously animated film that was treated with the utmost love and care. I was just astounded by the realness and the detail that went into crafting this movie. Even unrealistic characters like Jiminy and Pinocchio were treated with such care that these characters really felt real. The film is very light and fun when it wants to be, but there's always a foreboding and ominous feeling underpinned within it. We know what is at stake, even though Pinocchio is sometimes frustratingly oblivious to it. The scene in which Lampwick turns into a donkey is absolutely terrifying, even for me as an adult. These directors and animators knew what they were doing, and it showed. This film has heart, memorable characters, great songs, and gorgeous animation. Though it's not a perfect film, it is the one during this era that I look at the fondest. This era was absolutely eye-opening to me. It made me truly appreciate the Disney brand so much more than I possibly thought I could. It was an extremely rewarding experience, and I cannot help but wonder what would have happened had Disney not gone on to live a decade or two longer. Though it feels like he was taken from us too soon, he left behind a gorgeous and meaningful legacy that became the template for everyone to follow. So for that, thank you, Walt Disney. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned as I move on to the post-Walt era, the dark ages of Disney animation.